It's time for another Out of Bounds Rewind with Bo Bounds on ESPN 105.9 The Zone.
Brad Edwards on the Out of Bounds show. I want to talk you just big picture Jimbo Fisher. That is a devastating loss, Brad. They recruit way too well to lose that game to Appalachian State. And I know Appalachian State is a hell of a G5 program going back to Jerry Moore, but it doesn't matter. We're 5 years in. They don't have an answer at QB. Not sure why he didn't go to Max Johnson, but it's easy for me to say from my couch drinking a beer. We all talk about his 25 pages playbook on the sideline. And no one around him is going to challenge him to change, right? Like Saban did it on his own. It's not like Mal Moore or Greg Byrne. Greg wasn't there then. It's not like Mal Moore in his late years walked into Saban's office and told Nick Saban, you have to go get Lane Kiffin and modernize your offense. Saban did that because he's brilliant. We don't believe Jimbo's going to do that. What is your takeaway from where they are now 5 years in?
Right, and that to me is the key, that this is year 5. This isn't, year 2 or 3 where he's still got some of the previous coaches' players. He's been able to form his roster through recruiting. And he came in, and you could say maybe it was unfortunate for him that he inherited a quarterback who had just started the second half of the season as a freshman, Kellen Mond, and he was kind of forced to go with him for a while. But he continued to recruit quarterbacks, and it wasn't like anyone ever beat out Kellen Mond. But Mond was a guy, for all of his talent coming out of high school, all of the high rankings and everything as a recruit, never really improved 3 years under Jimbo. And then you had last year where Haynes King is injured very early in the season. Calzada plays out of his mind against Alabama, but the rest of the season was pretty much garbage. Haynes King looks terrible through 2 games this year. And you and I have talked about this so many times. You know how I feel about Jimbo. It's just that he's a good coach, but he's not a great coach. He's not close to that upper tier that everyone wants to put him in because he's won a national championship. But when A&M hired him, they felt like they were getting one of the best offensive minds in college football.
Right.
And I've said it many, many times. No one has ever feared the so-called Jimbo Fisher offense. Okay, they feared the Chip Kelly offense at Oregon. They feared the Art Briles offense at Baylor. Nobody has feared the Jimbo Fisher offense, except for maybe that one time. And it wasn't because of the offense. It was because of the talent at Florida State in 2013. But Jimbo's, it starts with a quarterback, and that's what you expected. He had 3 quarterbacks at FSU who were drafted in the first round. 2 of them probably shouldn't have been, but they were. And so that was his reputation. He's going to groom a quarterback. He's going to develop these guys. And he's had 3 different quarterbacks now at A&M and nothing. And, you mentioned how devastating the App State loss is. I mean, that's because you're coming off of this number 1 recruiting class. And you know this as well as anybody. You are not going to reach the level of Georgia and Alabama, talent-wise, with 1 recruiting class. You're going to have to do that 3 times in a row to get to their level. And you're not going to be able to repeat that if recruits aren't seeing results on the field. And, they lost 4 conference games last year. They went 2-4 against the West. A lot of people don't realize that because you remember them beating Alabama. They beat Alabama and Auburn. They lost to everybody else in the West last year. So they were 2-4 against their division a year ago. Now they lose to App State. They're probably going to lose to Miami. This is a huge game coming up on Saturday because for A&M, if they can beat Miami, it doesn't completely offset the loss to App State, but it certainly changes the mindset and allows them to kind of go into conference play in a more, positive mindset, and it fixes some of that. But if they lose to Miami, no one was imagining that they could possibly lose 2 non-conference games, already have 2 losses, and basically be out of the playoff picture before conference play even began, which is what they're staring at if this happens. And if they don't get any better than what we've seen through 2 weeks, their best case is probably 4-4 in conference play again. So, I mean, you're talking about 6-6.
Good hell.
Don't miss one moment of the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds. Weekdays, 7 a.m. till 10 a.m. on ESPN 105.9. The Zone.